Welcome to InkThinks. Last week I covered the topic of meme characters in Smash, but this week I want to discuss a different point of contention within the Smash community. Time after time again, I hear the term anime sword fighter thrown around as a means to end conversation and speculation about different characters included in Smash. I first noticed this argument popping up in the speculation scene around the time that Robin was added to Smash, but I've only seen it grow more and more common, and it seemed to reach its peak with the inclusion of Byleth. Now, a lot of people throw this phrase around to encompass a wide variety of characters, but I think that we should really break down what they're trying to say here. First of all, let's talk about the entire concept of an anime character appearing in Smash. It seems to me that when people bring this up, they're generally trying to bring up one of 2 points. Either they legitimately consider the character to be too closely tied to anime, and therefore think that they shouldn't even have been considered for Smash because of Sakurai's comments in an interview where he stated that only video game content could be featured in Smash. But this tends to be the less common argument of the 2 interpretations, although I have seen it come into play every now and then, like when Joker was added to Smash. The other angle that people try to approach this from is to generalize an entire category of characters to eliminate them from Smash speculation due to their art style or main weapon. I've heard this argument applied to everyone from Byleth to Sora to Travis Touchdown. But let's start with that first point. A character would be excluded from Smash because they're too closely tied to anime. This is a really strange argument to me, but I've seen it brought up in discussions regarding existing characters like Joker, as well as prospective characters like Catalina from Grand Blue Fantasy, who came into speculation when Vergibin the Leaker briefly discussed the possibility of her game making an appearance in Smash. In all honesty, this seems like an easy side of the argument to lay to rest, and I don't know how many people genuinely try to use this thinking that they're going to convince someone of anything, but let's break it down. While it is true that in a Tokyo Game Show interview, Sakurai said, quote, "I get all kinds of requests from abroad, like, where is my beloved Iron Man, or where is my beloved Goku? However, basically, Smash will only have content from video games in it." Now, naturally, it makes it very clear that at the very least, at that time of Sakurai's comment, he was closed off towards content originating from media outside of video games. But if we're being honest, I think that we need to acknowledge the heavy link between Japanese video games, anime, and manga. Japanese media has basically always been connected with these 3 mediums. To get a solid example of these, one doesn't need to look any further than the Pokemon series. At the series' conception, it was planned to be a 4-tiered media launch. The video games would inform the anime, which paved the road for the manga, all while a line of popular trading cards were launched at the same time. This was done to get fans of Japanese media across a wide variety of mediums interested in content even further. As a result of this system, we've seen anime and manga sprout off from a huge quantity of series in Smash, like Pokemon, Zelda, Mario, F-Zero, Donkey Kong, Metroid, Sonic, and more. They have all seen some sort of representation outside of video games, with some characters like Bowser going so far as to appear in Disney movies. Now, there's an obvious difference from characters who originate from an anime like Goku, with characters who happen to have an anime-like aesthetic and may have at one point appeared in some sort of anime. If a Japanese video game character gets popular enough, there is a very, very good chance that they will have an anime adaptation at some point, or at the very least a manga, by nature of this interconnection of the mediums. But let's talk about the anime aesthetic for a second. Does anyone else think that it's a really weird criticism to take a Japanese gaming company that features animated characters and hold the fact that many of their characters feature an anime aesthetic against them? I think that people have become so turned off by the inclusion of characters in Smash who feel somewhat unoriginal but share this art style that they've then projected the same hate onto dozens of other characters who would otherwise have no correlation. As I said, I've heard this argument thrown against Sora, who doesn't even have a sword and uses magic and summons to fight in addition to his Keyblade. And I've heard it used against Travis Touchdown, who basically has a lightsaber and is a major fan of WWE style wrestling. People are repeatedly shutting themselves off from genuinely unique and interesting characters because they get their heads shoved so far up their own butts that all of these vibrant and unique characters start to look like an oversaturated, uninteresting shade of brown. But anyway, like I said, this argument tends to be the less common of the 2. What I hear far more often is assuming that a character will be uninteresting or boring because they seem to fit this anime archetype on a surface level. I think a lot of this stems from how Fire Emblem has been implemented into Smash, and I think that this stigma continues to damage Smash speculation the more that it's thrown around. To explain this point a little bit better, I teamed up with my friend BlastBox to explain his thoughts on the topic. Take it away.
Hello there, everyone. thanks to my pal Ink, today I have the pleasure of talking to you about the Fire Emblem cast, and how the handling of this series in Smash Bros. Has contributed to the formation of this anime swordsman stigma he's been telling you about, because I think he's completely right in saying that this stigma against anime swordsmen largely stems from Fire Emblem. This niche collection of tactical RPGs has accumulated an impressive 8 characters on Smash's roster, all of which are anime characters with swords. When looking at this crew from the outside, if you're not a Fire Emblem fan, which when you do the math is a vast majority of Smash players, it's easy to understand the frustration with this cast. This series that occupies a niche of a niche of a niche gets 8 characters in this game, all of which looking pretty aesthetically similar and use the same weapon. Meanwhile, your favorite niche, or even not so niche Nintendo series is sitting with 1 to 3 reps? If you're not super into Fire Emblem, or let's say you're even not that into games with a strong anime aesthetic, because that does make up a large portion of the Western Smash community, this can definitely look like Smash has a favoritism for something that you're just not a huge fan of, which is leading to the roster being bloated with characters that on the surface seem redundant. The 8 Fire Emblem characters certainly struggle to differentiate themselves in comparison to the 8 Pokemon characters, for example. You see Smash give so much love to this series, and you're worried that what you love might be neglected while they focus so hard on niches that you don't belong to. Fear leads to anger, which leads to hate, which leads to suffering. It's that whole song and dance. So yeah, a ton of people are tired of Fire Emblem protagonists with no personality and pointy metal sticks. I can get that mindset, even if I don't share it myself. However, if you will, let's take Fire Emblem out of the picture for a second. Forget they're in this game. Look at the other quote-unquote anime swordsmen on this roster. Can you really look at Shulk, Cloud, Hero, or even Joker if you're someone that thinks he qualifies, and tell me that these characters are too similar to justify all 4 being on this roster? Or that these series aren't important enough to deserve representation in Smash? I hope that everyone is reasonable enough to acknowledge that these are 4 very different characters in both aesthetic and playstyle. But now, let's add back in those 8 Fire Emblem characters, and I think that is when you cause the creation of a culture where people of certain tastes have become predisposed to be resistant to characters of this archetype. And I believe a logical fallacy has developed that lumps characters that seem somewhat similar to Fire Emblem into this group of anime swordsmen, using an overgeneralization to help bolster their claim that these characters are a problem. The anime swordsman criticism only lives because of the choices that happen to be made in handling the Fire Emblem roster, not because of some problem with anime swordsmen as an archetype. But hey, that's just my speculation on the topic. Could different choices have been made with the FE roster along the way to prevent this timeline? Probably, but let's not lose focus. To leave you on something of a more positive note for these stylized swordies I haven't been too nice to, I personally do believe that every last Fire Emblem character on this roster deserves their spot in Ultimate. And this is coming from a guy who likes one whole Fire Emblem game and whose least favorite character in Smash history is Lucina. Despite my feelings, even she earns her spot on this roster. But that is not the topic of this video, and I'm trying to keep my segment under 2.5 hours long if at all possible. I have poked merely a single hole into the too many anime swordsman mentality, so I will pass the baton back over to Ink to finish the job here. Thanks for giving me the chance to cover this topic today. I'll catch you all later.
Thanks, Blast. And really, that's what I'm trying to say here. Just like the argument against so-called meme characters, the anime swordsman argument is one that's engineered specifically to dismiss, gatekeep, and delegitimize characters outside of someone's own personal wish list. And while I would never think any less of someone for their wish list, I see a lot of people saying things like, anime swordsman? Ew, unlike you generic weebs, I keep my list original with picks like Crash Bandicoot, Doomguy, and Dante. Once again, I'm gonna go back to what I said in last week's video. If you claim to enjoy Smash Bros speculation, then by all means speculate, but coming up with these pseudo fan rule stigmas that are held against people whose speculative wish lists don't match your own is the exact opposite of speculation. It's creating an echo chamber where people like to hang out to hear thousands of people reflect their own popular wish lists back at them until some seemingly random character becomes repeated so often that the inner speculation circles believe that they're likely, due to hearing people say it so often, that their speculative fiction begins to become dogmatic pseudo-fact. So while you're free to like or dislike any character you please, just try to actually base it on the characters themselves, rather than a catch-all catchphrase to prevent yourself from looking critically at the chances of new characters. And who knows, you might just find yourself a new favorite character. If you like this video, please consider hitting subscribe, or hit the bell if you want to see when I post. Click the video on the left to check out BlastBox and his channel, or the video on the right to check out something of mine that YouTube handpicked just for you. Please feel free to come talk to me on Discord, the link is in the description below. And until next time, stay smashing.